starting at the beginning. My mum died when I was 7. My dad went to work when I was 17, never came back. He passed on a shipping disaster in England where the boat capsized, hundreds of people died. It was pretty horrific because it was all covered on the news by virtue of the event. It wasn't like he was by himself on a motorcycle or something, like it was a nationwide event. So, and an only child being orphaned at 17, that was obviously quite pivotal in ways that I didn't fully understand. But it nonetheless, what I've recognized in hindsight, what it did give me was the glimpse of the isolation, right? So you gave the image of you up in this tower in your concrete dome. And there's that feeling of separation, which is what most people experience. They feel disconnected from life, which is why life is all about survival, because primarily we want to belong. And if my experience for myself is separate, then I have to fill in the blank, right? Be pretty, be smart, be wealthy, right. Wear the right clothes, blah, 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 whatever it is. So my experience of separation was very visceral because it was literal in terms of like, I am by myself. It wasn't like I'm in a relationship like a lot of people are. They could even be married, but they feel lonely, or they feel isolated, or they could have a family, but they feel somehow, discarded by the family. So they feel separated that way, but they have a family. I didn't have any of it. So at the time, it was just very painful, and I didn't really know how to process, certainly my mum when I was 7. But then in hindsight, I was like, wow, I think much of it was so that I could get to the place of really having such a profound compassion for every human being's ego, which by design is the experience of separation. So I had the visceral experience, the literal experience, so that I really could fully relate when people feel like they're not loved, they're not good enough, they're not, valued, whatever it is, because those are, I would assert, aspects of the isolated ego. So that was, a bit of background. But my quote unquote, awakening was just over 20 years ago. I was sitting in a rent control apartment in Santa Monica, everything that I possessed in this 200 square foot space. And I'd gone through a breakup with a girl who at the time, in my understanding of love, was somebody that I loved. And I'm not denying the fact that I loved her, but my version of love was very limited. Like most people don't really understand what love is. And I think they might have got a glimpse by virtue of your courageous sharing. But she left me and I sort of fell apart and couldn't sleep and lost weight. And I was calling all my, guy friends, like, how do I get it back? And for the first couple of weeks, we've been together for about 1.5 years or so, maybe a little longer. And it was really the first time that I'd felt that essence of love. I'd had girlfriends and it was fun. But this is where I felt like, wow, this really could be something long-term, in meaning like a marriage or whatever, and family. And so when she left, I really sort of fell apart. And we spoke for the first 2 or 3 weeks. And then there was this hiatus where I just hadn't heard from her for about 5 weeks. And my mind was ruminating. I couldn't sleep at night. And I could even remember literally one night I woke up. My mind was so active with all these questions, trying to figure everything out, that I literally screamed, "Shut up," to myself, like out loud. So that was a first. Anyway, cut to the 5 weeks of sort of having no, complete incommunicado. And I had these like annoying questions like, will I see her again? Is she dating somewhere else? Where is she? Will I have love like that ever again? Like all of these questions that were just like literally quite unanswerable until the moment where I got the answer to all of them. And it was so cathartic and it was so profound that the answer was 3 words: I don't know. And at that moment, like, will I see her again? Where is she? Is she with someone else? Will I have love like that? Whatever the question was, the accurate answer at that moment, given time, like literally was, I don't know. Like that was the answer. And when I got that, I realized, wow, that's the nature of life. Like I really got the fabric of the universe in terms of the linear progression of time through human being is complete uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. Yet, the ego, by virtue of the fact that it's living within a container of fear, is always trying to figure it out, like because it wants to survive. So you've got this complete contradiction now of life is uncertain, but the ego wants certainty. And therein lies suffering.